Welcome back to Beauty Marks Podcast, a space where we embrace our marks acquired through our journey. My name is Elizabeth Savillon, and welcome to another episode of this podcast. So we made it here. We are here this week. It has been an interesting week. And talking about embracing marks, I feel like in this season is just a lot going on that I have had to adjust. And I talk so much about self-care and self-love and just knowing what your body needs. And I felt like that is what I'm trying to implement in my life, in real life. And so in this season, I know it is busy and there's a lot of changes in my life right now. And I kind of feel like I'm backed up on stuff. Like I sometimes feel stressed, and I always want to come on here like with a fresh, mind. I want to encourage you guys. I want to inspire you guys. I want to educate and just chat. And I wanted this episode to be that, like an honest self-reflection. And, it's not perfect, like social media, like how I always share is just a highlight reel. But these past weeks have been hard. And I know that I'm going to be grieving the next few weeks because of a lot of changes with my family moving away. And, so I asked for you guys. I know you guys are so loving and so kind, and you guys show up every week, like I do, to hear this podcast. So I just want to say, thank you for, being here in the ups and downs and in these moments, and just, need some extra encouragement myself in this season, just completely being honest. So this past week, I just got back from Atlanta, that I was with my family and just helping with the change in them moving and with the baby and all of that. And let me just say, love my niece. I'm so I admire my sister and June so much because of how they are as parents and adjusting to this new life, and they both work, and it's a lot. Like having children is a lot. And I remember my sister asked me, she's like, okay, so what do you think about this? Like, can you see yourself doing this, like about babies? And I was like, honestly, I love her so much. And she's just like the cutest thing. And is amazing. Like, I love her, but I definitely will not be having children, at least in my plans. Don't plan to have children in the next 5 years, like until I'm 30 or plus, 30 plus, because it is a lot. It is so much. Like it was a lot. And I was taking care of the baby and Kobe. And it's just, man, props to the moms. I just want to take moms and dads, just want to really give it to you because it is a lot. And people with multiple children, and it takes a village, that's for sure. So I really enjoyed my time there with them though. And just we got to go to the aquarium and sightsee a little bit. And then I went to a John Mayer concert, and I was talking, and I was catching up with a friend today, and I was like, oh yeah, she was like, oh, what's new, or what things have you done new? And I'm like, honestly, I just went. I don't know if maybe this year I set myself up for putting myself in uncomfortable situations, but I have been really wanting to just get out of my comfort zone and feel get out of that weirdness of doing things alone. Like I feel like half of the time it's in our head. And so I had to put a list in the beginning of the year, the things that I wanted to do this year, by myself. And that was go to something dance related by myself, go to a concert, a fine dining restaurant by myself, and go on a trip. And I think that was the main things that I wanted to do. And I said the beach. And so I literally went to a John Mayer concert by myself. And yes, I did that by myself. It was great. Because I go to the movies by myself, and I do a lot of things, I would say by myself. And I feel like I got out of that mentality. I'm trying to get out of the mentality of just the weirdness of it, because even my salsa classes, when there's they have a social that they do and people dance and stuff. And like I've gone to that by myself. Like I've been really pushing myself and I like made a joke to her, like, I don't know if I'm just like trying to torture myself in this season of my life or this is part of the growing process for me because this is stuff that I sometimes feel like I'm so awkward. And I've shared on this podcast before that like I used to be like a social butterfly. And I feel like I like to get to know people, you know, I had that, but the pandemic definitely made me like have social anxiety and definitely didn't help me to be more social. Like I felt like I like, didn't like I felt so like anxious, nervous, like just uncomfortable being around groups of people or like people that I even knew. It was something that I had never experienced. And so doing these things has helped me to like start that again and like be more social. And honestly, you can definitely, I just want to let you know, you can definitely go to a concert by yourself. It's like going to the movies because everyone's just vibing. Like you're just having a good time. Like you're just listening to music and you're just, it was great. It was a great experience. I did it. I got that off my list and definitely you know, just it's not like as awkward as people might think. And same with classes or so I just want to challenge you to do something by yourself. And does that mean that you do everything by yourself? No, I am not like saying that I am like me, myself, and I for everything. Like, no, I definitely think that there's experiences that you should have that should be shared. And there are things that you should do with other people. Like you need community. So that's very different than what I'm talking about. But yeah, so if you have any questions about that and my wild adventures, because my family's like, I Lisi, like, girl, you're just, and I'm like, I know. I don't know what gets to my brain sometimes. Sometimes I get like impulses. And I'm like, you know, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go challenge myself today. And so yeah, it was good. But also, um, this weekend I watched it's a series on HBO Max from Brene Brown that's called Atlas of the Heart. And it is all about understanding emotion and connection. And it was like mind blowing. It was such like a good, informative, but inspiring because she was talking about how we can be connected, how we all long to be connected. And we weren't educated on emotions. Like she did a study that asked like, what emotions do you feel or you know? And people mostly said three emotions, which is happy, sad, and pissed off or angry. And she said, she's like, there's over 70 emotions that you can feel. And people don't know how to name it. Like people don't have a name, but there's such an importance of knowing what you feel. And because there's different responses to what you feel. And you know, same with like how when people ask like what how are you feeling? And they're like good. It's like good is like relatively not a feeling, you know, and but people like it's not an emotion. Like so connecting emotions and understanding and we weren't educated with that growing up. So I definitely recommend it. I'm going to include it in the show notes. Some takeaways from it. I just wanted to briefly talk about it. It was when she talked about connection, she said something that I was like, wow, so true. Connection is being seen, heard, and valued. And you're able to be seen, heard, and valued without judgment. It's usually when you feel connected to someone, it's usually a reciprocal connection and it's mutual. Like you're genuinely cared for and you're genuinely seen, heard, and valued. And that's when you feel a connection with someone. The opposite of that is when it's like one-sided relationships or where you feel like it's more of a taking. And then when she was talking about compassion, she went through like a lot of emotions and she explained it through movies, which I love movies. So it was just definitely recommend it. And so when she was talking about compassion, she shared a quote that said, what true compassion is can only be found when we know our own darkness, then we can sit in the dark with others. So when we see our own darkness, our own issues, our own low points, we can then have compassion for others and we can be there for others. We can hear and embrace and understand or listen to someone else when we can see each other like as equals, that like, wow, like seeing the human part of someone and being like, I'm like that too. So those are just a few things that I wanted to share with you guys. And on today's episode, I wanted to do like a self-reflection questions. And this is something of one of my favorite games. We Aren't Really Strangers, and it's actually self-reflection edition. And I just wanted to share a few of those. And I feel like this is more of like a real talk with you guys. And these questions kind of will explain where I'm at, my thinking. And these are questions that how I have talked about, self-care, self-love, like being vulnerable, and how to be more confident. And the episodes that I've shared up to this, I feel like this is a great, like, kind of wrap up of what I have been sharing about when it comes to this topic. And these are questions that you can ask yourself as I'm going through them and just kind of like reflect and like think about your answer as you go along with this. So the first question is, what did I give too much energy to a year ago that I can laugh at now? And when I think about that, a year ago around this time, I was actually going through a lot of stress and healing, like through like my breakup. And I was in therapy, and I was definitely like, I gave so much energy to like who was going to like one up, like kind of like who is going to like get better, and who like I had invested at that time so much energy in the other person, like what they were doing, how their result of the breakup was going to be, like their glow up, and how amazing it was going for them and not for me. And so I laugh at that now because I feel like now I have learned that like my healing is like when I look internally and like on myself. I feel like I wasted so much energy focusing so much on the other person than on myself. And I feel like we do that to ourselves. Like it's like torturing ourselves. Even though breakups are messy, but like we're all on our own path and we all deal with it differently, process it differently. And yeah. So the second question is, what is the favorite thing about the age I am today? And what is the least favorite? So right now I am 26. And so something that I love about this age is that I am truly understanding like what I need, what I want, who I am as a person. And I have more like confidence in that as a person. When I was younger, I didn't really know what I wanted, didn't know, I was what everybody else wanted me to be. I had a lot of like fear about things. And so I feel like now being able to just be my authentic self more is something that I love about this age, that I like make my decisions and am figuring it out as I go. But the least thing I would say is that there's so many changes in this age. And, with like stages of life, friendships, relationship status, family changes, like things change so much, like nothing's consistent in this state. And we're figuring it out. Like I can be, what I was doing a year, 2 years ago is not the same, like career wise, like the podcast, just so many things. But it's like, it's all becoming what I will be in the future, but it's like all changing at the same time. So that's my favorite and least thing. The third question is, what parts of myself have I felt the need to change in the past that I now embrace? Wow, this is a good one because it's like embracing my marks. I talk about that. And so parts of myself that I have always felt I needed to be different was about me being like kind-hearted and me having a lot of empathy for people. And over time, I realized that that's just how God has made me. Like, that's just my personality. And some people might think that it's like fake or it's not genuine, but it is. And I am genuinely nice. I genuinely care, genuinely have empathy. And I know that that's part of like my personality, being more detailed, being more thoughtful. But for such a long time, I was told that I would always be getting taken advantage of. I would always, people like me, like, oh, they remember, like I remind them of when they were young, like kind of like me being naive. And I agree, like the world can be rough, but I feel like I know that God made me this way. And something that I've learned is to set boundaries with people. And that has helped to protect what before I was taken advantage of. And, like, so if you're that person that you have like that empathy, that soft spot, like kind of like you feel things, um, you don't need to change that about you. Like, that's you, that's who you are, that's like the essence of you. And so that's something that I have embraced, that this is how I am. And like, you know, the right people, like, man, I love hard. Like, I love hard. I care a lot. And the right people benefit from that. Like, so if anything, it's like, you're welcome. So, in my friendships, like in a lot of things, like I do go like 110, so I know that those people that do value that of me and do affirm that and do care about that, like, those are the kind of people that I need in my life. So the next question is there anything I've been beating myself up about? What does empathy for myself look like in this situation? Ooh, still trying to figure things out. I think that people glamorize the entrepreneurship life and they make it seem like it's like, ooh, flexible, fun, like, and you just get to travel all the time and like do whatever, whenever. And, like, I think like people always push that, like even on social media, like, oh, quit your 9 to 5. Like, no, like sometimes the 9 to 5 works for people and that's great, but the entrepreneurship life is hard and it has very lonely, very stressful, you have no idea what the heck you're doing sometimes and you're figuring it out as you go. And I feel like I have been beating myself up because sometimes I can compare, like, being like, oh, that person's an entrepreneur and they're younger than me. And like, sometimes I think that I should have it figured out. But I know I've never done this and I'm figuring it out as I go. And that might mean that I fail. That might mean that I have ups and downs. And I think we're all kind of scared of failing. And I have been scared of failing. And so sometimes that's when I try to play small, or try to like not take that risk. But I know that I have to take those risks. And I did take a risk doing this. And by figuring it out, like, knocking on different doors, trying different things. And so I think I just need to have empathy for myself to know that I'm going to learn as I go and things can change and I can fail, but I can also get back up. And, age is just, it is not like an indicator of you having to know or have it all together. Like, we're all figuring it out. And, so something that's helped me is like more educating myself on small business, asking my family questions and knowing what might work for me and what might not work for me. Like, what area, like what kind of business, like how my business will work for me. Like, and understanding that it might take longer than I have a timeline for it, So And you know that me and timelines, I have gotten a lot better, but that's something that I share a lot because I know that there are a lot of people that like they don't see the other side. They only see like the happy part of it. But no, I think that people should share more about like the real ins and outs, that you're working a lot. You feel like at any time, like day or night, like you have to be even stronger with your boundaries, because I sometimes feels like you have no flow, like no like set flow versus like when you go to a job 9 to 5. And so I'm still trying to figure that out, like how my schedule will look. Now that I'm like back, there's like this year has just been a lot of changes. And now that I'm where I'm at right now, and I'm back, like that's what I plan to do, is more like set myself up and be willing to fail. That's like the real truth. Like be willing to fail and like not make so many excuses for that, because I think that fear comes out of like the fear of failure is like, so you try to be like have perfectionism because you're scared to fail. So then like, well, if you don't put it out there, if you don't do this, then like you can't fail at anything. But it's like people only regret the decisions that the risks that they didn't take, like the things that they wish they would have done, or so you'll never know unless you try. So that's just some encouragement for someone. What compliment do I hear the most that isn't about my physical appearance? A compliment that I do hear the most is more about like people admiring my consistency with like the podcast, and people admiring like me wanting to help others and encourage other people, and because it has helped them. So I feel like in this season, I have received that a lot more. And those mean so much to me. Like when I get messages, like I got a message, and I'm telling you, like they always come at the perfect time. But I just want to shout out, like, I'm not going to say the name, but just like when you do, it means so much. Someone wrote me that I know that I've known for a long time and said, I listen to your podcast from time to time, and I'm the in the middle of your last one right now. You've always been able to articulate your thoughts very well and in a way that makes others want to listen. I want you to know that it's admirable and it's comforting to know that people are more than just their social profiles. Keep rocking it. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Like those kind of compliments to me like mean so much. It has nothing to do with how I look or, anything, but it's like more deeper. And that person knows, like has known me for a while. So I really appreciate that. And the last question is, what am I not willing to settle for in relationships today that I allowed before? So I wanted to break this up into two, like friendships and then romantic relationships. So for me, something that I'm not willing to settle on in friendships anymore is people that it's only one-way relationships, that it's like I'm their emotional dumpster, and they just pour things like, complaining, negativity, things about them that I can solve, or I can hear them out, or I can express some empathy, but they're not able to do the same for me. So it's like, it's a very like taking, I've had a lot of those friendships over the years. And I feel like that in this point, I need like a mutual, like, it's like you're able to also be there for me in the goods and the bads, not only when you're struggling, that I can be there for you, but then when you're doing good, you don't, like you're nowhere to be found. And I have talked about this in previous episodes about categories of friends and seasons of friends and all of that. But I think that for me, like how I shared today, like even though I encourage other people and I genuinely like, that's something that I would say is more of a gift of mine, I need that too sometimes, so it's like being able to have mutual friendships where you both feel connected, and that you also feel like they're bringing something to your life. as much as you are bringing something to theirs. So that's something that's where I'm at with that. And then in romantic relationships, I'm not willing to settle for someone that's not sure about me or where they stand with me. Um, I know people aren't going to be perfect and there's going to be flaws where you have to work through some things. And, I know that my future relationship, like it will have its, hard moments, coming with, our history, our background, all these things. But I definitely want to make sure that I am not ever in the position, again, to be able to try to be changing or trying to be able to try to convince someone of why they should be with me or try to, change that person or change completely myself and the things that I value. Also, talking about this topic, I just finished reading It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. And I don't know why I hadn't read this book a long time ago because I was recommended this book by multiple people. Like when I would ask like what books recommendations, and everyone would be like, Colleen Hoover, like she's super good. And I didn't know what my soul was missing. I have been reading a lot of just educational self-help books in the past few months. And so I feel like I hadn't read a fiction book or like a romance novel or anything like that in a really long time. And so I finally read this book and I probably read it in like 2 days. And it was just like, I couldn't put it down. Like it was such a really good read. And they actually have a part 2 coming out. It starts with us. So yeah, so I just wanted to share this reflection with you guys today and just chat and be honest and open. I appreciate you guys. I'm always thankful for your support, your engagement with me. And just know that my DMs are open and you can always write to me, email me at beautymarkspodcast@gmail.com and we can chat. And if you want to know anything else, I will be doing, I know that it's coming up with our 2 years for the podcast. And so I will be doing another episode just about like questions that you might have, or like maybe like advice column. Like I love those podcast episodes. I don't know about you, but like, even though again, I'm just like me, but if you want to get my input on something, I would love to have like a segment or something of that, because I feel like we can all learn from each other. And if you want to know my views on something or a topic that may be controversial, you can also suggest that. So I will be doing a poll on social medias where you can do that, or you can just write me and let me know. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast, share with a friend. If you got something out of it, make sure to go back if you didn't jot down the questions, or to think about them as I was going through them. Think about those questions for yourself. And I hope you know that you aren't alone, and I care so much about you. I'm so thankful for you, and I will see you guys next week. Have a great one.